The Krazoth ships appeared without warning above the farming colony on Proxima B. Their crystalline vessels glittered against the darkness of space like deadly jewels. This was the 14th human settlement they had attacked in 3 months. No one knew why they came or what they wanted. They simply arrived, destroyed all resistance, stripped the planet of resources, and moved on to the next target. The small defense fleet stationed at Proxima B fought bravely. Their ships exploded one by one, brief flashes of light against the vast emptiness. The colony below sent desperate messages for help, but everyone knew the truth. Help would come too late. The nearest military outpost was 4 days away at maximum speed. By then the Krazoth would be gone, leaving only ruins behind. 200 light-years away, Commander Jack Riley stood at the window of Space Station Alpha, watching Earth rotate slowly below. He was a tall man with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. 20 years in Earth's space forces had left lines on his face and scars on his body. But today there was something else in his expression, a fierce determination. "Commander Riley?" A voice called from behind him. "The Admiral will see you now." Jack nodded and followed the young officer down the hallway. His boots echoed on the metal floor as they walked to the command center. Inside, Admiral Susan Porter waited by a large holographic display showing the known galaxy. Red marks indicated fallen colonies. "Jack," the Admiral said, not looking up from the display. "Good to see you." "You too, Susan," Jack replied. They had served together years ago before she received her promotion, though I wish it was under better circumstances. Admiral Porter sighed and gestured to the display. 17 colonies attacked, 14 completely destroyed. The Krazoth are moving through our territories faster than we can respond. "And the Coalition fleet?" Jack asked. "Scattered. Trying to protect too many worlds with too few ships." The Admiral pressed a button, and the display changed to show a single vessel. It was unlike any ship Jack had seen before, sleek and dangerous with unusual engine configurations and weapon systems. "This is why I called you here." "What am I looking at?" Jack asked, walking around the hologram to study it from all angles. "The USS Defiant, the most advanced warship humanity has ever built." Pride crept into the Admiral's voice. "Fusion-powered, armed with quantum torpedoes and phase cannons. But its real advantage is this." She touched another control, and the ship, in the display, seemed to fade, becoming transparent. "Phase shift technology." Jack's eyebrows rose. "That's still experimental." "Not anymore. The Defiant can bend light and sensor readings around its hull. Not perfect in visibility, but close enough to give us an edge. The Krazoth won't see it coming until it's too late." Jack understood now why he had been summoned. "You want me to command it?" The Admiral nodded. "The ship needs someone with combat experience and the guts to use this technology in the field. Someone who can make difficult decisions without hesitation." Jack stared at the ghostly image of the ship. "When do I leave?" "Immediately. The Defiant is docked and ready. We've assigned you the best crew available." Admiral Porter handed him a data tablet. "Your first mission is to protect the Tau Ceti colony. Intelligence suggests it's the next target." 2 days later, Jack stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant as it prepared to leave Earth orbit. The bridge hummed with activity as crew members worked at their stations. Everything was new. The equipment still smelled of manufacturing plants, and the floor had not yet been marked by boots. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez approached him. She was the ship's second in command, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "All systems are green, Commander. The crew is ready." Jack nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant." He pressed a button on his chair. "Engineering, status report." Chief Engineer Sam Miller's voice came through the speakers. "Engines at full capacity. Commander, phase shift drive is online but untested in combat conditions." "Understood." Jack turned to his navigator. "Set course for Tau Ceti. Maximum speed." As the Defiant pulled away from the space station, Science Officer Paul Kelly approached. He was younger than most of the senior crew, with a brilliant mind that had helped develop many of the ship's systems. "Commander, I've been analyzing the Krazoth attack patterns. They're not random. They're systematically cutting off our supply routes before making a push toward Earth. Jack frowned. Show me. Paul displayed a map on the main screen highlighting the path of destruction. See how they've taken out these colonies? They're isolating our core worlds. How long until they reach Earth? Jack asked. At their current pace? 3 months, maybe less. Tactical Officer Diane Allen spoke up from her station. Sir, I've completed weapons checks. All offensive systems are operational. Jack looked around at his crew. All strangers to him, but all humanity's best. They were the last hope against an enemy that had so far seemed unstoppable. We have one advantage the Krazoth don't know about. Us. He sat in the command chair and looked at the view screen as stars streaked by. Set phase shift drive to standby. When we reach Tau Ceti, we'll show these invaders that humans don't surrender easily. The Defiant accelerated to light speed, its engines glowing blue against the blackness of space. In the mess hall, off-duty crew members shared nervous conversations. No one had defeated the Krazoth yet. No one knew if it was even possible. Communications Officer Greg Winters sat with Olivia, picking at his food. Do you think we stand a chance? He asked quietly. Olivia considered the question. With this ship? With this commander? Yes, I've read Riley's file. He doesn't know how to give up. In his quarters, Jack studied the reports of previous Krazoth. Attacks looking for weaknesses, patterns, anything that might help. The faces of dead colonists stared back at him from the screen. Farmers, teachers, children, ordinary people caught in an extraordinary war. We won't let you down, he promised them quietly. The ship's computer chimed. Commander Riley to the bridge, came Olivia's voice. Jack hurried through the corridors. On the bridge, the crew stood tense around the main display. What is it? Jack asked. Paul turned to him, his face grim. We just received a transmission. The Krazoth have reached Tau Ceti earlier than expected. The colony is under attack. Jack's jaw tightened. Increase speed. All hands to battle stations. As warning lights flashed throughout the ship, Jack looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead an enemy waited who had never known defeat, who had ravaged the galaxy without mercy. They didn't know what was coming for them. The USS Defiant dropped out of lightspeed at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. The sudden shift made the ship shudder slightly as normal space returned around them. On the main screen, the crew could see the green-blue planet of Tau Ceti E, one of humanity's oldest and largest colonies outside the solar system, and surrounding it, like predators circling wounded prey, were the crystalline ships of the Krazoth. Status report, Jack ordered, his voice calm despite the scene before them. Paul Kelly bent over his science station. 15 Krazoth vessels, in orbit. Their harvest ships are already descending to the surface. He looked up, his face grim. Colony defenses are still fighting, but most of their orbital platforms have been destroyed. Jack turned to Sam in engineering. Is the phase shift ready? As ready as it'll ever be, Sam replied through the comm system. But I should warn you, Commander, this technology has never been field tested in combat. We don't know how it will hold up under stress. We're about to find out, Jack said. He stood from his chair, looking at each crew member. Listen up. We have one advantage, surprise. The Krazoth don't know we exist, and they certainly don't know what this ship can do. Let's keep it that way as long as possible. He turned to Tactical Officer Diane Allen. Weapon status? Quantum torpedoes loaded. Phase cannons charged, she reported, fingers moving quickly over her console. All weapon systems green. Jack nodded. Good. Lieutenant Martinez, take us in. Half-Wu, impulse power. Engage phase shift on my mark. The Defiant moved forward, approaching the unsuspecting alien fleet. From the bridge, they could now see the destruction more clearly. The colony's defensive satellites floated in pieces. Several human ships drifted, damaged, and dark. On the planet below, fires were visible even from orbit, burning cities and forests. They're killing everything, Greg Winters whispered from his communication station. I'm picking up emergency broadcasts from all over the planet. Not for long, Jack said. Distance to nearest Krazoth vessel? 50,000 kilometers and... Closing, Olivia reported. Any sign they've detected us? Paul checked his readings. Negative. Their sensors are focused on the planet. Jack took a deep breath. Engage phase shift now. A low hum filled the ship as the experimental technology activated. On the external camera feeds, the crew could see the Defiant's hull begin to shimmer and fade, becoming translucent like a ghost. Phase shift stable, Sam reported, though his voice was tense. Power consumption within expected parameters. Were effectively invisible to their conventional sensors. Take us right into the middle of their fleet, Jack ordered. I want our first strike to hit them from a position they'd never expect. The Defiant slipped between the massive Krazoth ships. Up close, the alien vessels were even more frightening, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with internal energy, strange appendages extending to fire weapons at the remaining colony defenses. Inside the Krazoth fleet formation, Jack studied the tactical display. That's their command ship, he said, pointing to the largest vessel. We take that out first. It should create enough confusion for us to target their weapons platforms next. Sir, Greg called out suddenly, I'm intercepting Krazoth communications, massive data streams between their ships. Paul moved to Greg's station, studying the patterns. They're coordinating their attack on the southern continent. That's where the colony's main agricultural center is located. Jack nodded. They always go for food production first, starve the population, weaken resistance. He had seen it too many times before. Not this time. Prepare to disengage phase shift. Transfer all available power to weapons. The bridge crew tensed. The moment they dropped the phase shift, they would become visible and vulnerable. Ready on your mark, Commander, Diane said from tactical. Jack took one last look at the enemy command ship looming on their screen. 3, 2, 1, drop phase shift and fire everything we've got. The Defiant suddenly materialized in the heart of the Krazoth fleet like an avenging ghost. Before the aliens could react, quantum torpedoes streaked from the human vessel, followed by the blue-white beams of phase cannons. The Krazoth command ship took multiple direct hits. Its crystalline surface cracked, energy spilling out into space like liquid light. Secondary explosions rippled along its length. Direct hits, Diane shouted. Their shields are collapsing. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the massive, alien vessel began to break apart. They had never seen a Krazoth ship destroyed before, no one had. But their victory was short-lived. The remaining alien ships reacted with surprising speed, turning their weapons toward the Defiant. Incoming fire, Olivia warned. Multiple vectors. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. Re-engage phase shift. The ship rocked violently as energy. Beams struck their shields before the phase shift could fully engage. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shield capacity at 60%. Paul reported. Phase shift fluctuating. Sam's voice came through, strained. The power drain is too much. We can't maintain weapons and phase shift simultaneously for long. Jack gripped his chair as another hit shook the ship. We need to withdraw and regroup, get us some distance. The Defiant pulled away, phasing in and out of visibility as the drive struggled to maintain its field. Behind them, the Krazoth ships were in disarray, their formation broken as they searched for the attacker that kept appearing and disappearing. They're confused, Paul observed. They've never encountered this technology before. Jack watched. The tactical display. The Krazoth command ship was completely destroyed, its fragments drifting through space. Several smaller vessels were damaged, but most importantly, the harvest ships were pulling back from the planet. They're retreating, Olivia said, not quite believing it. Jack allowed himself a small smile. No, they're regrouping. But so are we. He turned to Greg. Open a channel to the colony. Tell them help has arrived. As the Defiant circled back, ready for another attack run, the crew felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For the first time since the Krazoth appeared, humanity had struck back. The Defiant circled back toward the Krazoth fleet, flickering in and out of visibility. Inside the ship, damage control teams rushed through smoke-filled corridors, sealing hull breaches and repairing damaged systems. On the bridge, Jack and his officers planned their next move. Phase shift capacity at 40%, Sam reported from engineering. His voice was nearly drowned out by the sound of emergency repairs happening around him. If we push it any harder, the whole system might fail. Understood, Jack said. He studied the tactical display where the Krazoth ships were regrouping in a defensive formation. Their previous perfect coordination was gone. Now they moved cautiously, scanning space for the human ship that had appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Paul looked up from his science station. Commander, the colony's defense grid is partially back online. They're asking if they should target the Krazoth harvest ships. Jack considered this. Tell them yes, but to wait for our signal. We need to coordinate our attacks. He turned to Diane. What's the status of our weapons? Quantum torpedoes at 60% capacity. Phase cannons fully charged, she replied. Jack nodded. We need to make this count. We won't get another surprise attack. He pointed to a section of the enemy fleet on the display. Their ships are bunched together here trying to protect each other. If we can get a clear shot at these fuel carriers, the explosion should damage the surrounding vessels. That's right in the middle of their formation, Olivia pointed out. We'd be exposed from all sides. That's why we're going to use the phase shift differently this time, Jack said. Instead of staying hidden, we'll flicker in and out, just long enough to fire, then shift again before they can lock weapons. Sam's voice came through again. That kind of rapid cycling will put extreme stress on the drive. I can give you maybe 3 or 4 shifts before we risk a complete failure. 3 or 4 is all we need, Jack assured him. Everyone, prepare for attack run. Greg, signal the colony forces to target the harvest ships on my mark. The crew moved with purpose, their earlier fear replaced by determination. They had proven the Krazoth could be hurt. Now they would show they could be beaten. Approaching. Optimal firing position, Olivia announced as the Defiant slipped closer to the enemy fleet. Jack tightened his grip on the arms of his command chair. On my mark. Drop phase shift, fire torpedoes, then immediate re-engage. The Defiant suddenly appeared in the middle of the Krazoth formation. Before the alien vessels could react, 4 quantum torpedoes streaked toward the fuel carriers. The ship vanished again just as energy beams from the surrounding Krazoth ships sliced through the space where it had been. Inside the phase shift field, the crew watched their torpedoes hit the target. The fuel carriers exploded in a blinding flash, the blast wave rippling outward and damaging 6 other Krazoth vessels. Direct hit, Diane shouted. Enemy ships showing significant damage. Now, Jack ordered. Signal the colony. From the planet below, the remaining defense platforms fired upward, targeting the vulnerable harvest ships. 3 of them erupted. In flames, breaking apart in orbit. Phase shift failing, Sam called out. We can't maintain it. Drop shift and go to full shields, Jack commanded. Evasive pattern Delta. The Defiant reappeared and immediately began a series of sharp turns and dives, making it harder for the Krazoth weapons to track them. The ship shuddered as enemy fire impacted their shields. Shields at 30%, Paul reported. Return. Fire. All weapons, Jack ordered. The Defiant's phase cannons lashed out, cutting through the damaged Krazoth vessels. On the view screen, the crew could see something they had never witnessed before. The Krazoth fleet was in chaos. Ships collided with each other as they tried to regroup. Their normally perfect formation had fallen apart. Then Greg called out from his station. Commander, I'm picking up new signals. 3 more ships just entered the system. Jack felt his heart sink. If these were Krazoth reinforcements, the Defiant wouldn't survive another battle. Identify, he ordered. Greg's expression changed from worry to amazement. They're human ships. The Intrepid, the Valiant, and the Dauntless. A voice crackled over the communication system. Defiant, this is Captain Maria Garcia of the Intrepid. Looks like you could use some help. Relief washed over the bridge crew. The Intrepid and her sister ships were part of Earth's Third Fleet, not as advanced as the Defiant, but powerful warships nonetheless. Captain Garcia, Jack responded. Your timing is perfect. We've damaged their main force, but our phase shift drive is offline. We've been monitoring your attack, Captain Garcia replied. Impressive work. We'll take it from here. You've softened them up nicely. The 3 human warships moved into attack formation, targeting the damaged and disorganized Krazoth vessels. Fresh quantum torpedoes and energy beams struck the alien ships. On the Defiance bridge, Jack watched the battle unfold. "I didn't think any ships could get here this quickly," he said. "They were already en route," Greg explained. "Admiral Porter dispatched them right after us, but they couldn't match our speed." Olivia smiled. "The Admiral must have had more faith in us than we thought." The remaining Krazoth ships began to retreat, pulling away from the planet and accelerating toward the edge of the system. The human vessels pursued, continuing to fire. "They're running," Paul said, his voice filled with wonder. "I've never seen them retreat before." Jack nodded, "Because no one has ever hurt them like this before." He turned to his communications officer. "Greg, open a channel to all ships and the colony. They need to know what happened here." As Greg worked, Jack stood and addressed his crew. "What we've done today changes everything. The Krazoth aren't invincible. They can be fought. They can be beaten." He looked at each of them in turn. "This is just the beginning." On the main screen, they could see the Krazoth ships disappearing into the darkness of space, leaving behind their destroyed companions and their failed mission. For the first time, the hunters had become the hunted, and the shadow of the Defiant had changed the course of the war. 2 weeks after the battle at Tau Ceti, the USS Defiant docked at Space Station Alpha near Earth. The ship bore the scars of combat, scorched hull plates, hastily repaired breaches, and systems still operating at reduced capacity. But as the crew disembarked, they walked with pride. They had done what no one else had managed. They had defeated the Krazoth in battle. Jack stood in Admiral Porter's office giving his final report. Through the large window, he could see Earth below, peaceful and blue. It looked the same as always, but everything had changed. "The phase shift drive needs a complete rebuild," Jack explained. "Chief Engineer Miller says the stress of combat exposed several design flaws, but he has ideas for improvements." Admiral Porter nodded, looking up from the data tablet that contained Jack's full report. "Sam will get whatever resources he needs. The technical data you brought back is already being used to outfit 3 more ships with phase shift technology." "Only 3?" Jack questioned. "For now. The technology is complex, and materials are limited." The Admiral stood and walked to a large display screen on the wall. She activated it to show a map of human space. "But even 3 more ships like the Defiant will make a difference. Look at this." The display changed to show the positions of Krazoth fleets. Jack noticed immediately that something was different. "They're pulling back," he said. "From all fronts," the Admiral confirmed. After word spread about what happened at Tau Ceti, the Krazoth began consolidating their forces. They've abandoned their attacks on 4 colony worlds in the past week alone. Jack studied the tactical display. "They're afraid." "Exactly. For 3 years, they've ravaged our colonies without any effective resistance. Now suddenly they're facing a weapon they can't counter." Admiral Porter smiled slightly. "The psychological impact may be even more valuable than the tactical advantage." Jack nodded, but his expression remained serious. "They won't stay afraid for long. They'll adapt, find ways to detect ships using phase shift technology. Which is why we need to press our advantage now." The Admiral touched a control and the display changed to show a star system Jack didn't immediately recognize. "This is Epsilon Indi. Intelligence suggests it's being used as a forward base for Krazoth operations in this sector. We need to strike there next." "The Defiant won't be ready," Jack pointed out. "The repairs will take at least 3 more weeks." "You won't be taking the Defiant," Admiral Porter replied. "You're being reassigned to the USS Phantom, the first of our new phase shift-capable vessels. It's been designed from the ground up with the lessons learned from your mission. It's faster, more powerful, and the phase shift drive is more stable." Jack was surprised. "You're giving me a new ship?" "I'm giving you a fleet," the Admiral corrected. "Operation Shadow. 5 ships, all with phase shift capability. Your mission will be to strike deep into Krazoth territory, targeting their supply lines and command centers." 5 ships against their entire fleet?" Jack questioned. 5 ships they can barely detect, commanded by the only human who's beaten them in battle. The Admiral's expression was determined. Besides, you won't be alone. While you're striking from the shadows, the main fleet will launch coordinated attacks on their front lines. Jack considered this. It was a bold strategy, perhaps the boldest since the war began. When do we start? The Phantom will be ready in 3 days. I want your crew transferred over immediately. Admiral Porter handed him a new data tablet. These are your orders, along with all available intelligence on Krazoth movements. Later that day, Jack walked through the corridors of Space Station Alpha, heading toward the observation deck where his crew had gathered. They were celebrating their victory and remembering those who hadn't made it back. As he entered, conversations stopped and all eyes turned to him. "Commander on deck," Olivia called out, and everyone stood at attention. "At ease," Jack said. "This isn't an official meeting." The crew relaxed and Jack looked around at their faces. 2 weeks ago, they had been strangers to each other. Now they were bonded by shared danger and triumph. Paul Kelly was there, deep, in conversation with Diane Allen. Greg Winters was showing something on a data pad to a group of junior officers. Only Sam Miller was absent, still working on the Defiance repairs. Olivia approached him holding a drink. "Sir, we didn't expect to see you. We heard you were in meetings all day." "I was," Jack confirmed. "And I have news." He cleared his throat and addressed the entire group. "I've just come from Admiral Porter. In 3 days we ship out again." Murmurs spread through the crew. "The Defiant won't be ready by then," one of the engineers pointed out. "We won't be taking the Defiant," Jack explained. "We're being reassigned to the USS Phantom, a new ship with improved phase shift technology. We're going to lead a strike force deep into Krazoth territory." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "A strike force?" Diane finally asked. "How many ships?" 5, all equipped with phase shift drives," Jack answered. "Operation Shadow. We'll be targeting their supply lines and command centers while the main fleet engages their frontline forces." Paul whistled softly. 5 ships against their entire fleet? Those are long odds. "Better odds than we had at Tau Ceti," Jack reminded them. "1 ship against 15 and we won." Greg stepped forward. "Will the whole crew be transferred?" "Anyone who wants to come," Jack said. "I won't order anyone to volunteer for this mission. It's going to be dangerous, deep behind enemy lines with limited support." He looked around the room, meeting their eyes one by one. "But I want you to know something. What we did at Tau Ceti wasn't just a victory in battle. It was a turning point in this war. For the first time, the Krazoth are afraid. For the first time, they're retreating instead of advancing." The crew stood straighter, pride visible on their faces. "I need people I can trust," Jack continued. "People who've proven they can face impossible odds and win. That's you, all of you." Olivia raised her glass. "To Operation Shadow." "To Operation Shadow," the crew echoed. As they celebrated, Jack looked out the observation window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krazoth were regrouping, planning, adapting. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the alien ships appeared, humanity was fighting back, and the shadow of defeat was lifting from the galaxy. The USS Phantom moved silently through the darkness of space, its hull shimmering slightly as the improved phase shift drive bent light around it. Behind it followed 4 more ships, all using the same technology, all nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Operation Shadow had begun. On the bridge of the Phantom, Jack looked at the tactical display. The 5 human ships were deep in Krazoth territory, approaching Epsilon Indi, the alien forward base. Intelligence suggested that 20 Krazoth vessels were stationed there, including 3 of their massive motherships. "Phase shift functioning at 98% efficiency," Sam reported from his new position at the engineering station on the bridge. After their experiences on the Defiant, Jack had requested that Sam be present during combat operations. "All ships maintaining formation," Olivia added from beside Jack. She had been promoted to full commander but had chosen to remain as his second in command. Jack nodded. Time to target? 8 minutes, Paul replied from the science station. His console showed detailed scans of the Epsilon Indi system. Krazoth activity appears normal. No sign they've detected us. The past month had been a whirlwind of activity. The Phantom and its sister ships, the Spectre, the Ghost, the Wraith, and the Shadow, had been rushed into service with their crews training day and night. Meanwhile, the main human fleet had launched attacks on Krazoth frontline positions, drawing their attention away from the small task force slipping behind their lines. Open secure channel to all ships, Jack ordered. When Greg nodded that the channel was open, he continued. This is Commander Riley. We're approaching the target. Remember, our mission is to destroy their supply ships and damage their command vessels. Hit hard, hit fast, and stay mobile. Good hunting. As the small fleet approached Epsilon Indi, they could see the scale of the Krazoth base. Massive structures orbited the system's gas giant, harvesting its resources. Supply ships moved between these facilities and the gathered warships. And at the center of it all floated 3 motherships, each larger than anything humanity had built. They've been busy, Diane observed from Tactical. This isn't just a forward base. It's a staging area for their next major offensive. Not anymore, Jack said firmly. Deploy according to plan. Spectre and Ghost target the supply ships. Wraith and Shadow draw off their patrol vessels. We'll take the motherships. The human vessels split off, each heading for their assigned targets. The Phantom accelerated toward the heart of the Krazoth fleet, still cloaked by its phase shift field. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Diane reported. Jack stood from his command chair. Prepare to drop phase shift on my mark. Target there. Command ship first. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, each person focused on their task. They had trained for this moment, but all knew that no training could fully prepare them for what was to come. Sir, Paul called out suddenly, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the motherships. They're activating some kind of sensor. Array I haven't seen before. Jack frowned. Can they detect us? Before Paul could answer, Greg turned from his station. Commander, the Wraith is reporting that they've been scanned by some new type of Krazoth sensor. Their phase shift field is holding, but the aliens definitely detected something. They've been adapting, Jack realized. Just as we feared. Across the system, Krazoth ships began to move, forming defensive patterns. They hadn't fully detected the human vessels yet, but they sensed something was wrong. Change of plans, Jack decided quickly. All ships, accelerate to attack speed. We've lost the element of surprise, so let's make this count. The 5 human ships surged forward, still, partially concealed by their phase shift fields, but now moving much faster. The Phantom led the way, heading straight for the largest mothership. Drop phase shift on my mark, Jack ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The Phantom appeared seemingly from nowhere, directly in front of the Krazoth command ship. Its weapons fired immediately. Quantum torpedoes followed by phase cannon blasts that cut deep into the crystalline hull of the alien vessel. Around the system, the other human ships did the same, appearing and firing in a coordinated attack that caught the Krazoth off guard despite their heightened alert. The bridge shook as the mothership returned fire, its energy beams glancing off the Phantom's shields. Shields holding at 80%, Sam reported. Their weapons are stronger than we anticipated. Jack gripped the rail of his command station. Press the attack. Target their propulsion systems. The battle spread across the Epsilon Indi system. The Spectre and Ghost tore through the supply ships, leaving destruction in their wake. The Wraith and Shadow led Krazoth patrol vessels on a chase through the outer system, drawing them away from the main battle. And at the center, the Phantom exchanged fire with the massive mothership. Both vessels took damage, but the human ship was faster, more agile, darting in to strike and then pulling away. Their shields are failing, Diane announced after a particularly effective attack run. One more pass should do it. Jack nodded. Take us in. Full weapons. The Phantom swung around for a final attack, all weapons firing at once. The mothership's defenses collapsed and the quantum torpedo struck its power core. The massive vessel began to break apart, energy spilling from its wounds. Command ship is destroyed, Diane confirmed. Across the system, the other human ships, reported similar successes. The Krazoth base was in chaos, its defenses broken, its supply lines cut. All ships, regroup and prepare to withdraw, Jack ordered. Mission accomplished. As the 5 human vessels reformed their formation and activated their phase shift drives, Jack looked at the devastation they had caused. What had been a powerful alien base was now a field of debris and damaged ships. Send word to Fleet Command, he told Greg. Operation Shadow successful. Target destroyed. Request permission to proceed to secondary targets. 3 days later, Admiral Porter addressed the combined fleet commanders. On the main display behind her was a map of the galaxy, showing Krazoth territory now marked with red zones where Operation Shadow had struck. For 3 years the Krazoth ravaged our colonies, she said. They attacked without warning, destroyed without mercy, and disappeared before we could respond. But that time is over. She highlighted the areas where human forces had pushed forward. In the past month, we've reclaimed 7 systems. The Krazoth are in full retreat on all fronts, and it began with one ship, the USS Defiant, that cast its shadow over them. In the audience, Jack sat with his officers. They had returned briefly for resupply before heading out again. The Phantom and its sister ships had become the spearhead of humanity's counterattack. We still have a long way to go, the Admiral concluded. But for the first time since this war began, we can see a path to victory. As the briefing ended, Jack looked at his crew, no longer strangers, but family forged in battle. The galaxy had changed. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity's shadow was spreading across the stars.